Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of Time to Talk, hosted by Project Purple and COVID-19 BD. Throughout the series, we plan to bring on many guests to shed light on topics that we think need more focus on during today's time. Today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Raphael Chowdhury. He's the founder and CEO of Bioforge Health Systems. He's a physician by profession and an innovator at heart. He's also a very well-known teacher. His team at Bioforge is currently working on the M26 PAPR project, which aims to help on-duty doctors during this pandemic with the latest technology.
Thank you, Ridhan. Thank you for having me on your today's show. And you guys are doing a wonderful thing. You and Project Purple, your
Thank you, sir.
team. I greatly appreciate it, actually.
Thank you, sir.
So yes, let's
It's a
get
pleasure
started.
to have you, sir.
Thank you for joining us today, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. Hope you and your family are doing well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And yes, Alhamdulillah, my family is doing great.
Okay, then let's move forward to the questions. Our audience wants to know more about the goals of Bioforge Health System and what it does.
Okay. So let me give a short background. So Bioforge Health Systems is basically a company that I founded. And with me, I've luckily found an amazing team which works with us. What we do is basically we find ways of giving affordable healthcare technology to people through developing low-cost technology, hardware, medical devices, and also developing different types of software which is related to the healthcare sector.
Thank you, Pa. So, how did Bioforge come into existence, and was it something you always planned on doing?
Good question, actually. Bioforge, the inception of Bioforge was during my medical internship after med school. I used to see, one of the things which really used to hit me was, we have very few people who can actually afford the true cost of healthcare. And one of the reasons healthcare is expensive is because the devices and all of these things are expensive. Obviously, the doctors who train to treat have also been training and learning their whole lives. So that is also a cost. But one cost which can be partially reduced is maybe the device and the whole organizational costs in setting up hospitals. So that's when I realized that because I had an interest in engineering and physics from a very early age, I could see that the devices that doctors use or medical professionals use, they don't have to be so expensive. And there are ways in which even in our country, even in Bangladesh, we can actually make them. And that would be the inspiring and driving factor behind Bioforge.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, please tell us how Bioforge is developing powered air purifying respirators, also known as PAPRs. And why is this something we need?
PAPR, let me tell you a bit about PAPR so that people can be more aware of it. So it's basically something you see in sci-fi movies and stuff. It's like you have a hood and it goes down to your shoulders with fabric, or it may stay on your head. And what it does is it's got a pipe which has a waste device on it, purifies air, pumps it into the headpiece. It is a very high grade of protection. Everyone now knows the term PPE, personal protective equipment. It's one of the highest grades of personal protective equipment, and it's essential when you're doing medical procedures on COVID patients. When you intubate a COVID patient, they cough out and aerosolize a lot of droplets. So whoever does the intubation has to do it closely. And without equipment like a PAPR, they're very, very prone to getting infected with COVID. So why we have to make it, it's because these devices are usually made by international corporations and they cost $1,000 to $1,500 on average. Extremely expensive. And even if our doctors could dish out that money, it's not even available on the international market so easily right now. But we still need it. So the only possible solution is us, or people like us should be making it.
Wow, sir, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Sir, as someone working in the health sector, what is the biggest setback the world has seen due to the ongoing pandemic, according to you?
From a health sector perspective, I would say a few things. Number one would be lack of planning. Everyone nobody was actually prepared for a pandemic. And the global response to the pandemic was not an organized one. Starting from China to WHO to even the developed countries, very few people have actually responded well. One of the reasons was, I believe, lack of planning. And another reason would be lack of coordination. Like, you need to find effective ways of getting instructions out there to your people and to your doctors. And your politicians should be very, very well connected in these terms. But globally, not even in our country, but globally, because of there's a gap of communication, it's created a big problem.
How do you stay positive and productive amidst this time of uncertainty due to the pandemic? And what would you suggest to our viewers?
So yes, that's actually a very difficult question to answer, because staying positive in this situation is really difficult. We're hearing about people falling in with COVID or passing away with COVID among our known people and friends and family almost every day. So it's really difficult. But what I would say is, yes, more than staying positive, we should be aware and take care of our mental health, and be as the productive most that we can without being difficult or hard to ourselves. So by staying positive, what I would say is taking care of yourself, obviously, staying in touch with your friends and family, communicating so that you don't feel lonely or alone. If you have a hobby that you always wanted to put time into, do that. If it's as ridiculous as, like, uh, I don't know, I don't think any hobby is ridiculous. But right now, for example,
Binge
one
watching.
of the things that I am actually,
Binge watching or like gaming.
yeah, binge watching. If you want to go watch a movie, go watch 10 movies, watch 10 series. Right now, my hobby is actually taking photos inside games, right? So in-game
Oh,
photography.
it's so
So
cool.
that's a hobby I never knew I had. So, like, now I'm trying it. So it might sound ridiculous, but, like, find whatever you feel like is something you want to spend your time on, and use it to maintain your mental health. Stay in touch with your friends and family, and do as little as the minimum that you should be doing without feeling bad about, like, no, I'm not doing anything, right? So yeah, that's what I would say. Set the benchmark on a realistic level and keep yourself healthy mentally also.
Thank you, Ka. So the next question I have is a little conventional. What is your view on online education, and do you think it is a proper alternative to the traditional method of teaching physical class education?
Acha. So if you're comparing, say, to students in actual classrooms versus online, there was always a transition which was happening even before the COVID outbreak. However, now that everyone's taking online classes, it's not the natural progression, it's actually out of necessity. And teachers are learning. Now, honestly, it totally depends on the quality of education that the teacher can deliver online. If they can give an interesting and immersive and engaging method of teaching, then I would say, yeah, okay, good enough. And is it as good as physical classrooms? There are teachers out there who take physical classrooms where you feel disconnected even in that classroom. And on the other hand, you have online teachers who are taking classes online and you feel very connected. If online didn't work, people wouldn't watch YouTube, people wouldn't watch movies, right? But there's something that has to come in to make it better. So obviously, what I would say is it needs plenty of improvement, especially on the teacher side. And is it as good as that? No, obviously not yet. But if we keep moving forward and if the right steps are taken, you can someday reach a point where they can be comparable.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. What is your advice to the students during this pandemic who are anxious about their future?
All right. Well, first point would be everyone's anxious about their future, not just the students. So it's all right to feel anxious. Innovators, businessmen, employees, professionals of every sector, everyone's pretty much anxious because of many factors, not just the economic outcome, but also the health issues and everything. So number one would be keeping their eyes on the big picture, which is that COVID is here and it's not here to stay, hopefully. We can say that maybe sometime in the future, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, it should be under control and we should go back to not entirely, but maybe to most of what it was previously. So in this anxiousness, what I would say is, yeah, stay positive and don't let that anxiousness destroy your progress or your productivity that you are working on. Keep your eyes on the prize and just keep moving forward.
Thank
Definitely,
you, sir.
sir.
Thank you. That's actually very helpful. So the last question I have tonight for you is, it's a different kind of question. So according to you, what is the formula of being successful in life? Be it a teacher, be it an entrepreneur, or like be it a student?
Okay. Good question again. But first of all, I want to put something out there is that I don't yet consider myself to be entirely as successful as I strive to be or dream to be. I would say that I'm trying to do that, right? So I think the first most important thing is effort. Okay? So you have to put in your energy and effort consistently, right? Even if people are not clapping behind you and like, you know, pushing you forward, you still have to put in your effort in the right thing. So number one would be, it's what I would say, resilience. That's what brings out successful people. And number two would be educating yourself about what you want to be successful in. That's the second thing. Okay, and the third point would be basically you need to go and find your own definition of success. Because if you just run behind the generic answer of success being rich and famous, you might not be successful or happy. So very important thing is that different people define success differently. Your grandparents might define it in a very different manner that you might define it. And like, you know, it might be happy family. It might be like, you know, just living a comfortable life. It doesn't have to be rich and famous. A lot of people just don't want to be rich and famous, but they're still happy in their own definition successful. So I would say, and rich and famous actually, if that was the answer, then you wouldn't see celebrities or anyone like that, movie stars or rock stars actually being depressed or killing themselves, right? So I would say the most important thing about being successful is find your own definition of success. Is it just being rich and famous? Okay, fine, but really ask yourself if that's it. If it's going out there and helping people, making a change in everyone's life, a positive change, then fine, that's it. If it's just being home and enjoying your time with your family or friends or just playing games and you consider that to be success, then that's absolutely fine. It depends on your definition of success. Really.
Thank you so much,
That's
sir. That was
amazing.
truly inspirational.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, that is all the questions for this episode. But before ending, we would like to shed light on Project Purple, which is an online platform that enables people to share their stories anonymously in battling problems specifically related to mental health. Hence, we would like to encourage any viewer who is struggling through problems such as depression or anxiety to check our website. Sometimes even a stranger can have the answer to your problem.
Thank you once again, sir, for
Great.
joining us.
Yes.
To all our
Thank
viewers,
you.
thank you for tuning in. See you next time. Till then, stay safe.